Hello. Today on Quantified Software, I'd like to talk about the standard model of building software. This isn't necessarily what everyone's doing, but it's the standard advice you get. We taught most of this in my course at Yale School of Management, and this is what people will say is the state of the art. In many ways, it's exciting, and I want to learn more about it. But I think there's something more. I think we can push past this to start quantifying and understanding things at a deeper level. There are still problems that have been with us from the beginning of writing software. I want to find some breakthroughs. Do you know where they are? So, as I walk through this standard model, I want you to think, does this match your experience of what people are telling you to do? Is it what you do in your own firms? Is it what you've seen as a best practice? If there are things that are left out here, I hope you will tell us. Let's jump right in. On the idea requirement side, there's a ranked backlog, usually of user stories, so you're not putting too much effort into work in progress. Where there's variation is how much UI or UX work you should do beforehand. Usually people say less, sometimes people are doing a little bit more. I think it's very rare to measure cost of delay or other real value items at this stage. There can be complicated business cases that people make to try to put dollars and cents to it, but often this is not done till a later stage. You'll often hear the recommendation from a process perspective to be with Agile. So that means daily stand-ups, sprints, retrospectives, and in an odd way, unitless estimations, which is about removing people from thinking about hours, just thinking about comparisons between different types of estimates, different types of things that we're doing. It's because people are so bad with estimates. Burn down charts are usually part of this, and that's about as quantified as it gets, but you're often doing it in these unitless measures, so they're not always perfectly translatable into what does it mean for the rest of the project. On modularity and APIs, it's supposed to be REST, cloud native, have standalone pieces of your application that are talking to each other. The famous two pizza rule for team size and making that team dynamic fit into the way that the software is built as well. Continuous deployment and integration. It's really self-service. You're shifting to the left, building once, and then you're fully automating that deployment. Making the unit size for changes small. You're building testing right into that pipeline. Maybe you're writing other tests. Maybe you're doing load testing and security scans as part of that. And part of the larger DevOps movement is this infrastructure as code, so everything's checked in, everything is available to that automated deployment pipeline so you can build out the environment. The principle of you build it, you run it. You're a developer. That means you're responsible for making sure that any outages are addressed. You're responsible for taking care of it. It's meant to put the cost back to where you're making the decisions about how to build it. It's internalizing externalities in economic frame. On the monitoring side, visible business metrics. What are the outcomes that we're trying to achieve? Is it, growth in revenue, more users, or whatever is important to the business? And then there's application performance monitoring, the APM that's plugging in deeply into all parts of the system and really pushing monitoring to a new level. One of the odd parts is the way GAAP and accounting fits in. Often you have to measure the hours worked on a new system in order to capitalize it for accounting purposes. If you're fully following Agile and you're doing estimates in this unitless time, you're not necessarily going to be used to tracking hours. Maybe you can track, by day, and maybe only the managers have to deal with it, not each individual person. But that's a part where things seem misaligned. Now turning to the other standard metrics that are part of this standard model and often associated with parts of DevOps. The four main ones are cycle time, so the lead time from check-in to code deployed. The frequency of deployment, so how fast are you putting something out? What are the number of changes you're putting out? What is that velocity? But as you're going faster, making sure that you're successful in deploying. So you don't want to be shipping bugs, things that are broken, things that aren't working. You also know that things will break. So you want to manage that response, be able to fix things, make sure you're focused on it. And those things that do break don't stay broken for long. As powerful as these metrics are, they leave me asking for more. On the lead time metric, what about the whole part of the process that's from idea to starting to write code? Often this is called the fuzzy front end, and it can take up 50, 75% of the entire overall holistic cycle time. What about from deployment to value or to revenue? So you've deployed the code, but does that actually drive revenue? What if you take multiple changes to get to the revenue or to get to the value being created? You have to aggregate multiple changes together. On frequency of deployments, you're generally trying to have more per unit time, but is there a limit to how many? And is it useful to think of how many per person? Is there a target? I think that this could become pathological if people just start shipping changes just to have changes. It's like counting the number of lines in your software. Could it become meaningless at the limit? And then on the success rate of deployments, I'm wondering about learning. Validated learning, you scrap features, you were exploring the feature space, you were trying to figure out where the value was, but then you destroyed it, you blew it up. Now, is that a successful deployment? How do you think about that? On the speed of repair, how about the time of discovery, and how is that included? And severity often isn't included. Sometimes is in ITIL, but the severity of the impact to revenue, to other metrics, that matters a lot more than maybe a few minor things that impact only a few customers if you're rolling out features bit by bit to a group of customers. So beyond these 4 metrics, how do we push the standard model forward? I think that estimating the value in an idea and quickly identifying those ideas that will really have an impact and provide value for the business and for customers, that's hard. We've got to push the state of art forward. The estimation of time, cost, uncertainty to build, quantifying that, being able to speak about the 50% estimate versus the 90% estimate, being able to really quantify that in a better way, we've got to get better. Who's doing it well? How do you attribute value? In the marketing fields, you think about putting ads out there and then trying to figure out which one of them come back and generate the revenue for the business. Can we do that in software? I think we have as big or a bigger problem of attribution in the marketing field. When you're looking at a development process, I'd love to be able to more easily identify bottlenecks. Where do you need to invest to improve productivity? How do you measure productivity? And why are we building so much custom all the time? Can we change that? I know that's been talked about for a long time, but I think we can make some breakthroughs. So what about discovery, figuring things out, building small prototype or testing features versus fully implementing it? How do we think about that? How do we think about the split of paying down technical debt versus incurring it, and when to do both, how to quantify it? There are many more questions we have here at Quantified Software, and this is just a flavor of some of them. If you have ideas, if you know who we should be talking to, the books we should be reading, the articles, the YouTube videos we should be watching, please comment below and make sure to subscribe. Join us on this journey